RTM will come to order. It's Wednesday, May 10th, 2017 at 7:30 p.m. Will the clerk please take the roll?
Representative Adams? Here. Bailey? Baker?
He's here.
Oh, okay, sorry. Baker? Burrell?
Here.
Bauer?
Here.
Burgos? Casper?
Here.
Dean Shinbrot? Evans? Frickman? Garcia? Gilly? Crocker Hubbard? Kent?
Here.
Longino? Laughlin? Marr? Marley? Massett? McCabe? McDermott?
Here.
Merritt?
Here.
Nault?
Here.
Nugent?
Here.
Aubrey?
Here.
Parker?
Here.
Pasqualini?
Here.
Powers?
Here.
Quinn?
Here.
Sleeker Hersant?
Here.
Steinford?
Here.
Irma Streeter? Jim Streeter? Swindell? Wagner? Watrous? Wells? Williams? Wilson?
Here.
And Newsom.
Here.
28 at roll.
There are 28 members present. I declare a quorum. Will everyone please rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item on our agenda is approval of the April 12th, 2017 RTM meeting minutes. There a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to move.
Yep, Burrell, and who seconded that?
Adams.
Adams, thank you.
Motion's been moved and seconded to approve meeting minutes for the April 12th, 2017 RTM meeting. Is there any discussion on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously, 28-0-0. Next, citizens' petitions. This is the portion of the RTM agenda where the RTM welcomes comments from citizens. Each presentation should be limited to 3 minutes or less, and citizens should, if possible, submit written comments. Presentation should be limited to matters pertinent to Groton. The moderator or members through the moderator shall ask questions only in order to clarify the speaker's presentation. Responses may be given by the moderator and or by the town manager. Citizens should make their presentations from the lectern and state their names and addresses for the record, please. First on the list is Dean Antipas. Councilor Antipas.
Well, I will say, there was a time when I was the dean of law school, and he answered my phone call because he thought I was the dean of another law school. He said, had I known you were just an applying student, I would not have answered. I have to credit the man. Philip Blank is the man. He's passed away. He's a nice and direct. I appreciated that. Dean Antipas, 164 Pear Lane in Mystic, happens on the Groton side. All right. Am I done with 3 minutes by now? All right. Not here to advocate for or against anything, but to provide some background. And I'm happy to be challenged on this. I have a spreadsheet that I made up with the help of Cindy Landry, Finance Office. It goes back from this year where the council set everything, where we left it, all the way back to fiscal year ending 1991. And I've got columns for current taxes. I've got a column for the budget, I've got a column for the education budget, the mill rate, the grand list, all of it. So I'm not going to bore you. You can tell this is a rather dense little document. But just to provide some perspective, because people are tossing out items for history, items for to make rhetorical points, and so on. And for whatever it's worth, take this for whatever it's worth. Let's go back, say, to 2008. This would be 10 years ago, fiscal year ending 2008. So we're dealing with fiscal year ending 2018, going back to 2008. We had current taxes at the time of $66.5 million, say $66.5 million. We're now proposing, as we stand, $85.1 million. That has been an average yearly increase of 2.5%. It varies, actually, when you look historically. But going back 10 years, it averages 2.5%. Your experience may vary. Mine's actually been about 2.2, thank you. The budget itself, over that same period, has averaged increases of 0.39% annually, and actually the percentages have gone down. We've experienced some negative growth in the budget, as you all know, because you pass it. Education budget, something similar. Over that same 10-year period, has increased 0.66%. And again, the numbers go down. If you go backward in time, the numbers get bigger. So essentially what you're looking at is, from 1991, a growth in the rate of increase, steeper, and then leveling off. Why? Because we've been struggling with state revenues and other sources of revenues that have gone down. So while things have gone up, we've tried to flatten the curve, and that's what these numbers show. And just in case anybody gets crazy about the mill rate, back in 1991, the mill rate was 33.9. So, as I've told many people before, I don't focus on the mill rate. I focus on what I'm going to be paying as taxes. I expect I'll be paying, according to this, another 5.13%, because we're going from current taxes of 80.948 to 85.102. If we leave it at the council's number, that is arithmetically a 5.13% increase. Admittedly, a lot bigger than last year's 3.2, admittedly bigger than the year before's 1.8. We all know why, but that's where we are. Historically, over the last 10 years, 2.5%, and I'm done. Thank you.
Counselor, could you please, would you be able to provide that for the meeting minutes, your sheet?
Sure. I can email it. Who should I email it to? Should I email it to you?
To the clerk, please. Thank you, sir. Bruce Flax?
Bruce Flax, 632 Noank Road in Mystic. So I wanted to come and speak to the RTM tonight before you had your budget meeting, and with regards to an issue that has arisen that I wanted to get out in front of. The town clerk notified the council maybe last night that there was an issue with our April 21st budget meeting. And basically the issue is that there was an FOI complaint brought by a citizen of the town saying that the meeting was adjourned, and then we held a subsequent meeting. And for those of you who are at the meeting or are aware of the April 21st meeting, it was a Friday night. We had gone through the education budget, and a number of $74,492,000 was approved. We knew that we had to recess the meeting because Cindy Landry needed to reconfigure the CIP numbers. She needed to reconfigure the capital reserve projects and the capital reserve contribution. And so what I should have done was recess the meeting, and there was a motion to adjourn the meeting, and I said we were adjourned. So the FOI complaint is that everything that took place after we were adjourned is null and void, for lack of a better term. So I've come here to explain this to you, to give you some information, and to tell you what it means for the RTM and what you guys moving forward. As I said, the meeting could be considered invalid. I think that's up for discussion. I'm not here to fight that point right now. I think that if somebody wants to fight that point, we can. But right now, I'm just giving you the lowdown. The first action we took in this invalid meeting was to reconsider education, but we ended up not reconsidering because Councilor Barber had left the meeting and we felt it would not be respectful to consider after she left. The next action we took was to reconsider account 1075 capital reserve contributions. It was moved to reconsider the number of $773,000, and that number was reduced to $548,000. That was approved after reconsideration. Then the next action we took was to reconsider 5010 capital reserve projects. It was moved to reconsider $3,142,000. And we did. $2,917,000 was approved after reconsideration. Councilor Barber then returned to the meeting, and upon her return, the education budget of $74,492,000 was moved for reconsideration, and it was voted on to increase that number by $255,000 to $74,747,000. The meeting then adjourned. And if you watch the video, because I was talking to Mark about this, the videographer, when he hears the word adjourn, he shuts the cameras down. So any discussion that was had after we said adjourn are lost. They're not taken. But we did have discussion about reconsidering these things for Cindy and taking a break so that she could reconfigure the, format the numbers. So for me, for me it's an issue of words. I had every intent to recess so Cindy could recalculate. I just followed the suggestion to adjourn without thinking. The continuation of the meeting after the recess was not done with malice or bad intent. Really was just I'll call it a rookie mistake. So it was really an honest mistake. It does affect the RTM with regards to what the actual town council budget numbers are. And so if there's no issue here, the numbers you have we need to make sure the numbers you have are the correctly voted upon council numbers, but based on the adjournment, those numbers could be considered invalid. So the ones you have right now in your book would be considered invalid. And I have a paper. It was in, did you guys get this? Okay, so you guys can see the invalid numbers and the appropriate numbers, and you can take your appropriate action when each one comes up. But that's that. I don't know if anybody.
Anybody in the RTM have a question for the mayor? Representative Nugent.
Thank you, Mayor Flack. So I'm a little confused. Where does that stand? Where does it stand? Wait, the FOI Commission will make the final determination?
Well, I think because we're here and telling you what happened, and there's a potential to make an adjustment to the numbers that. So in other words, the thing it really affects is the education number, and theoretically it would bring it down $255,000. So if you wanted to raise it from that number, you would need a 2/3 vote, just like you would if the number was $255,000 higher. So the number that you would be using is $74,492,000, not $74,747,000.
Okay, so
that make
that
sense?
is, yeah, so that is the number we will be considering. Is that? or
Yeah, I would
be-
say, yeah, again, I think that, in talking to Mark, I don't think we have time we don't want to go to court over, we don't want to fight it. I mean, clearly it was adjournment, but the intent was not to adjourn. So it's really up to I would say that you would start with that 74,492 number.
Okay.
Because the adjustment to the capital reserves contributions lowered both of those accounts by the amount of money that we reduced the CIPs by, right? Is that? Correct. So there was really, I think it's a net, it's not like a wash, really. It's like a zero. So your CIP number is going to be higher and would have to be, voted upon to lower, and and the Board of Education budget number is going to get lowered by, you know what I'm saying? So the number that you guys meet on next Thursday would be, you're working at a base of 74,492, not 74,747.
Okay, thank you.
Did you follow?
So
Look a little
essentially,
confused,
so because of the adjournment, and I was there at that meeting, everybody left, Councilor Barber left, everybody thought the meeting was over, the council came back. that can be considered an illegal meeting. And just to clarify, what that means is, if we were to vote on what we think, if we think that the number for the education budget should be what the town council ended up approving, they ended up adding $255,000 at that meeting, which means if we want to put that money back in, that would require a 2/3 vote instead of a simple majority. But, I mean, their decisions haven't been made on that quite yet, so I'll keep you informed.
Correct. So thank you for your time. Sorry for the error, and carry on.
Deborah Johnson.
Deborah Johnson, 196 Flanders Road in Mystic. First of all, I'd actually like to comment on something that the mayor just said. I was at home watching the meeting, and that meeting, the video did end on the television, but it continued to stream live. I watched it stream live. I watched the entire meeting. Another parent was watching it live from home also, because we were texting. We were kind of distraught about the original amount that was approved. And I said to her, oh my God, it's still streaming live, and they're talking about reconsidering the amount. And we were like beyond thrilled. So I will say that there were witnesses to that continuation of that illegal meeting. Okay, so the reason I am here, though, is I'm here to speak in support of the Board of Education budget. I'm a data analyst, so I'm a numbers girl, so I'll apologize in advance for my numbers. The Board of Education budget history shows that between the fiscal year 2010-2011 through 2012-2013, the budget was $72,645,500. In 2013-2014, the budget was $73,662,715, an increase of about $1 million, or 1.4% increase. In 2014 to 15, it was $75,098,943, an increase of $1.4 million, or 1.95%. 2015 to 16, the budget was $76,730,239, an increase of $1.6 million, or 2.17%. In 2016 to 17, the budget was $76,468,239, a decrease of $262,000, or a decrease of 0.3%. For the fiscal year 2017-2018, the Board of Ed presented the Town Council with the proposed budget of $77,745,293, an increase of $1.3 million, or 1.67%. The Town Council voted to reject that amount and cut $3 million to arrive at a final budget amount that I witnessed on on live stream of $74,747,000, and I had $1 as well, because the amount that initially was approved had that extra dollar. So this was 3.9% less than what the Board of Ed had originally proposed. Now, last week, the RTM Education Committee voted 6-2 to restore $655,130 to the school budget. According to an article in The Day, Kathleen Nugent, chairman of the RTM Education Committee, said that she would make a motion on May 18th for the RTM to restore the $655,130 as recommended by the committee. Even restoring this amount, which brings the budget amount to $75,402,131, is $1 million less than the budget of 2016-2017. That amount represents a $2.3 million cut, or a 3% decrease to the budget that the Board of Ed proposed. I would like to request, in addition to the RTM Education Committee voted upon amount, that the RTM please consider restoring an additional $1,066,108, bringing the total restored amount to $1,721,238 to the Board of Ed budget. This would result in a budget of $76,468,239, the same budget as fiscal year 2016-2017, and it would reflect a 0 increase over the previous year. Thank you. I have a copy. And I also included where I quote those numbers.
Excellent.
Numbers that
Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. Kate Richards?
Hello, my name is Kate Richards. I live at 78 Algonquin Drive, Mystic. I'm here simply to say that I support fully funding the requested budget by the Board of Education, not then cutting anything further than where we're at. Hopefully, in light of what we've heard today, including what happened in what is considered the illegal ending of the meeting when you met before, and hopefully including even more. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Claire Rogers?
I'm Claire Rogers, live at 138 Payer Lane in Mystic. RTM members, I thank you for your volunteering time, much appreciated. I am here as part of the Groton Parent Council to ask you to support the education budget. We believe that a healthy community starts with our families. We also believe that our schools are the foundation of that healthy community. Parents who speak positively of our Groton schools live here, they move here, which in turn supports the real estate market along with various businesses and organizations in our area. Having an enticing pre-K through grade 12 program provides a guaranteed 13 years of constant ongoing stability and growth for Groton. Let's work together to ensure continued excellence in our school system, thereby upholding that solid foundation which is needed to keep our community vibrant, competitive, and strong. So please vote yes to at least accept the Education Committee's recommendation to restore the $655,130, or better yet, we'd all sigh in relief if you would just consider restoring the whole thing that the Town Council offered. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Larry Croxton?
My name is Larry Croxton. I live at 35 Knoll Drive in Groton. Good evening. Let me first take a moment to thank you for your commitment to the citizens of Groton, which include the children of Groton. I appreciate the time and effort that you all put into doing your very best for all of us. I'm here tonight to encourage you to support the recommendation of your own Education Committee to return approximately $655,000 to the Board of Education's 2017-2018 budget. Although now I suppose I should ask for that you would consider the $255,000 as well. We'll let you figure that out. When the people that are hired at EB over the next several months come to the area, they'll be looking for the town with the best school system and the town that values their children. Parents will trade somewhat higher taxes for a safe neighborhood and a quality education. I know because this is what I did. I'm a lifelong resident of Groton. But when my wife and I started our family, we decided to stay in Groton because of the schools. I've been a teacher for 36 years, 19 in New London and 17 here in Groton. So I know a thing or two about the school systems in the area. Groton has always been on the cutting edge of programs and curricula that provide the best for the children of Groton. The teachers are highly qualified in their area of certification and dedicated to the students that they teach. Public education is not the same as it was when many of you were in the seats in the classroom. Preparing lessons requires teachers to consider every child. and his or her needs and abilities to best meet those needs and to care for the whole child. To go back to the days of warehousing students in classrooms of 30 or more children would be inhumane and destructive to the lives of those children. In today's school, every child has an individual plan to allow them to have a successful educational experience. If you don't believe me, make an appointment with a teacher to visit for a day to get an idea of what today's school is really like. You're welcome to my classroom anytime. Give me, 15-minute notice. There's already been enough damage done to the school system with the closing of Pleasant Valley Elementary School, the many teacher, paraprofessional, and staff layoffs that have been handed out. The school board and the superintendent are doing what they can to reduce the effects of these cuts. The teachers are writing postcards to the state legislature and will be attending a rally in Hartford on May 18th, which will include thousands of teachers from across the state. This rally is aimed at eliminating the proposed contribution to teachers' pensions fund by the cities and towns. The parents are coming to you with their concerns about these cuts and the negative effect they will have on their children. Now it's your turn to do what you can and return funding to the education budget. I pray that you will. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was everybody who was signed up. Is there anybody else who would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kevin Bogle. I reside at 467 River Road in Mystic. My wife, Becky, is a very strong member of the PTO at Northeast Academy, and we are very supportive of the educational systems in Mystic. I have one daughter who is actually graduating this Friday from Loyola University in New Orleans, and she actually attended all the Groton school systems all through high school. She eventually moved away with her mother in Savannah, but she ended up getting a full scholarship to Loyola University, and she's graduating this Friday, so I'm really proud of her. My second daughter is Mallory, and she's currently going to Northeast Academy. She's an incredible student, athlete type, I'd have to say. She really is more athletic than my older daughter, but she's an incredible athlete, loves the school system. I can't tell you enough. I've been there myself to see how great Northeast Academy is. Full spirit. I mean, I just have to tell you one quick thing is that for a child who is 6 to 7 years old to be able to recite and sing the Northeast Academy song is incredible. I've never seen anything like that in my life. So she's very spirited, and so are the rest of the children there as well. So it's a great school system. So I just want to say that I'm in full support of the system. I think it's very educational and supportive, as I mentioned, with my one daughter who proceeded through the school system. The other one, I'm hoping more with athletics, I think, but we'll see how that goes. But it's very, very good, and I think that it's a great school system. I would really support any type of funding losses that may have occurred. And I just want to mention one more thing, too, is that I live in Mystic right now, and I've been an executive in the casino business, so there have been times where I lived in New York as well. And in Westchester, New York, you just have to imagine what the tax bases are there, and we truly could not relocate to New York because of the cost of the taxes, where taxes on an annual basis were anywhere between $20,000 and $25,000 just for a normal starting home. I'm not talking about anything extravagant near the water you may have heard about that's $18 million. I mean, you want to get into a $700,000 home in Rye, New York, and your taxes are $20,000 to $25,000 a year. So I think the taxes are reasonable here, in my opinion, and that's why we always kept our house here. And I, again, want to support the educational system here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name's Mike Whitney from 112 Deerfield Ridge Drive, Mystic, Connecticut. And thank you for giving me the chance to speak today. I just want to say, first of all, I support the Board of Education budget. I feel that fully supports the children and the education system. And I think whichever town council number you're going to have to deal with, it's far too low. So I'd like to say that funding education is our biggest budget item. I understand that engenders some resentment just from that fact. But I urge you to remember that education is the best investment we can make. It pays innumerable dividends for each child, for our town, and society as a whole. We have a legal obligation and a moral responsibility to provide for our children. And public education is part of what allows this country to be a land of opportunity for all. I've heard it said that Groton pays too much from education, but this view grows really from feelings, not from facts. The fact is, we don't spend as much as other towns. We're, in terms of per student spending, we're in the bottom third of all districts in the state. And in terms of local towns, we rank 7th out of 9 local towns. Only Montville and Ledyard spend less per student. We aren't measuring up. And how can we be competitive in attracting families that are coming to this area or keeping them in our town if we're not spending as much as other towns? And these are the 2015, 2016 numbers. That's before any of the cuts we're considering. Any cuts take us in the wrong direction. And what's that going to do to property values? What's that going to do when we have people moving out and people and families choosing not to come here and settle here for 20, 30, 40 years? So I must say there are many bright areas that show how Groton education shines. The dedication of teachers, paraprofessionals, staff, administration, and students is clear. Their achievements show they make the most of the education funds they have. We need to continue to support them in every way we can. Better funding will return better results. We're closing in on our state education accountability goals, but we're not there yet. We rank 7th out of 9th, again, in local districts in overall student performance. We also have a troubling gap in the graduation rate between students with special needs and the student body as a whole. Statewide, we're an outlier in a bad way. And any funding increase will help, and any cuts will hurt. So please consider this when you vote. And I'll say again, that town council number is too low. The RTM education budget, what they put forward, is better, but it's not all the way there. And as you consider higher numbers, please remember the minimum budget requirements. We learned at the RTM Education Committee last week that if the state doesn't act by June 7th, then the educational cost share from the state remains intact. So do our minimum budget obligations. And that means that every number I've heard put forward or approved by town council or put forward by the RTM Education Committee is too low. We will incur penalties if the education cost share comes through. And they're big penalties because it's twice as much as what we're below where we should be. So if it's this lower town council number, then that's going to be a penalty incurred of, I think, $2.3 million. If it's the RTM education number, it's $500,000. At the very least, pass a higher number that avoids penalties and needlessly penalizing the state and getting our town and getting nothing for it. But better yet, fully support our children in our schools. Then performance will grow to continue to improve. And Groton can grow and continue to be more competitive. We can raise the ranks and go up higher among our local towns. And
Mr. Whitney, your time is
okay,
closing.
so let's invest for Groton's future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I apologize, you had signed up, and my eyes skipped right over your name. I apologize.
That's fine.
You were down there. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Seeing nobody, we will move on to reception of communications. Representatives Marr, Jim and Irma Streeter, Dean Shinbrot, Wagner, and McCabe all let me know they would not be available tonight. Something else, yeah, I debated whether to announce this or not, but I think we as a community need to know, because it's not like it's going to stay quiet for long. I don't know if anybody read the CT Mirror. All right. Governor Daniel Malloy unveiled a plan Wednesday that relies on one-time revenue sweeps, withholding $19 million in municipal aid, dozens of small agency cuts, and draining the state's reserves to close the roughly $390 million gap in current state finances. The plan, which was prompted by a huge drop in anticipated state income tax receipts in April, effectively concedes Connecticut will close its third successive fiscal year in deficit. What that means is, what they're talking about is they're talking about the money for this year, for the fiscal year that ends June 30th. And Governor Malloy's plan is to cut education funding from all the towns, and the amount that he has chosen to cut Groton, and again, that's for this year, not for next year, is $445,369. We need to find that money for this year. So I apologize for being the bearer of bad news, but I think we as a community need to think about this. On that happy note, report of the town manager. Yeah, follow that.
So there. Hopefully all of you have had a chance to pick up the newsletter. I'll quickly go through it because I know we have other business we need to get to. The financial statement, the fund balance as of April 30th is approximately $9.9 million, which is equivalent to around 8.1% of the general fund budget. Our stated objective is always to maintain at least 7.75. The general contingency for the current fiscal year was budgeted at $425,000. There have been a fair number of transfers that have been approved by both the council and the RTM. We're projecting that we're going to end up with a balance in contingency of around $11,000, $10,714. And then capital reserve as of April 30th is $1.8 million. There were some building grant reimbursements received in the amount of approximately $316,000, and that's why the amount is higher than the amount last month. A couple items I just want to point out. There are two articles concerning the streetlight initiative. One is just giving you an update as to where we are with the LED conversions. We're almost done. We've been doing LED lights in parking lots and so forth, town parking lots. The street lighting is essentially complete on the eastern side of town. And then also, just a reminder, we do have a procedure in place that has served us very well of how to report streetlight issues if they're out. There shouldn't be a lot of those with the new LED street lighting. On the eastern side of town, there certainly will continue to be outages throughout the community, but they should be fairly minimal on the eastern side of town. But just wanted to remind everybody of what the process is, notifying Public Works and so forth. I am proud to announce once again that the town is the recipient of the Government Finance Officers Association Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, the CAFR. The CAFR is online. It is, I think, one of the best documents that any community could put together in terms of giving kind of a snapshot as to how the community is doing from a financial standpoint. I would encourage you to look at it if you haven't recently. It does change year from year, but I think it is it's not very fancy, it's not sexy, so to speak, but there's tons of good information in it about our financial condition, budgeting, and so forth and so on. Just a couple other items I just want to bring to your attention. This is starting on page 4, some upcoming events, workshops, and so forth. Tomorrow, at the Town Hall Annex, we are having a public information meeting concerning tax increment financing program. If you are interested, and some of you may be on the committee and already plan on attending. Also, GASP has notified us that they will be doing a workshop entitled Addiction and the Brain, which will be on May 16th at 7 p.m. at the Mystic Noack Library in Mystic. Also, there's an upcoming event that concerning economic and community development activities with respect to the Connecticut Small Business Association for Small Business Resource Partners. It's an open house. It's purely informational. You'll be able to chat with folks. It's on May 17th from 3:30 to 6:30 p.m. It will be at the Town Hall Annex. You may be interested in swinging by that. Also, we've been notified that Connecticut Armed Forces Day will be having their annual luncheon on May 19th at 11 a.m. at the AquaTurf up in Southington. This is an annual event. I know folks from the community, because of our close relationship with the military, not only at the subbase and the Coast Guard, but also at AFCRAD over at the airport. There are a number of folks that have gone up to this over the years. TVCCA has a major fundraising event coming up on May 20th entitled Carnival. It's on May 20th at 5:30 at Mohegan Sun. And this year, the Citizen of the Year Award from the Eastern Connecticut Chamber is Mary Lanzini. Many of you know Mary. She has been visiting with us for many years at budget time. She's not here tonight. Ralph is here in her stead. But she is this year's recipient of that award. It is on May 31st at 6 p.m. at the Mystic Marriott. And then lastly, I would like to note that also attachment 12 in your packet is the monthly economic development update. And that's all I have.
Does anybody have any questions for the town manager? Representative O'Bray.
I'm just curious, were you there for the entire meeting that seems to be in question?
On the 21st?
Yeah, with the
Yes,
council.
I was, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the town manager? We'll move on to report of the superintendent.
Good evening. A few things I'd like to report. One, most importantly, we've moved forward with I think a well thought out plan for the transition for closing Pleasant Valley School, which is now involving a fairly large committee. Of course, we need to reassign the children about 300 children who had planned next year to attend Pleasant Valley. We are in the process also of arranging for the transportation, which is probably going to be the biggest challenge that we will face. And then, of course, the reassignment of the staff. But last week, we took a first big step. We had a lottery for the children who were hoping to attend, new children who were hoping to attend either Northeast Academy or Catherine Kolnowski. And I'm delighted to report that when they held the lottery for Catherine Kolnowski, there were 186 additional children who applied. That's by far the largest and most popular we've ever had, and 165 children applied for the openings at Northeast Academy. So those children have actually been identified. The families have been notified. And so we now are taking our second step. So we have the children who are going to go to those two schools next year from around the district, but also primarily from Pleasant Valley that we're concerned with. And then this week we will be assigning children to go to Charles Barnum School, where the vast majority of children will go. So that's moving along, and I'll keep you updated on that process. The second thing is, this is extremely important because you may remember last year when we were approaching the referendum for building the new middle school and the 2 elementary schools. At that time, our schools were actually back in racial balance, which meant we were not eligible technically for the 80% reimbursement for the building of a new Cutler Elementary School. But the State Board of Education met last week and in fact confirmed that Gloucester School is racially imbalanced. That is to say, more than 25% of children of color, more than 25% more than the average of the district. And therefore, we were notified we were out of racial balance and therefore eligible for this 80% reimbursement, which of course was the foundation of the financial planning for our schools. So I've been in contact with the Department of Administrative Services. We're moving ahead. We have our owner's representative has met with us. We're in the process of trying to select an architect. So we are moving exactly as planned. And there is, despite this may seem counterintuitive, but there is several $100 million set aside to be bonded by the state. So the state is going forward with its responsibilities to build schools for the children in our state. I continue to get updates from Senators Summers and Representative De La Cruz and Connolly. Unfortunately, it's a daily event, and one day it looks like we're going to make out pretty well, and the next day not so well. And today, I'll talk about that in a minute. Really not so well. In preparation, I did want you to know that in preparation for closing Pleasant Valley School, the board authorized the non-renewal of 88 of our non-tenured teachers. So 88 of our teachers were given essentially pink slips. And once but that's the bad news. The good news is the board authorized an early retirement incentive. So when teachers retire, they essentially won't be replaced. And so we're actually next year we're going to lose 39 instructional people, 10 paraprofessionals and 29 teachers, less than this year. Hopefully I'll have some information for you on the 18th. But we hope to rescind those, or at least we will rescind as many people as we possibly can. The vast majority will be rescinded, but unfortunately some folks are going to be facing layoffs. Just one second final note. Since we last met, 2 of our schools, based on statewide testing, have received what the State Department of Education calls schools of distinction. Northeast Academy, based on the elementary scores for grades 3 through 5, received a distinction award. And SB Butler actually received a school distinction award partly because of the overall scores, but partly because the State Department, based on demographics, basically projects how well children are going to do that are so-called high needs, free and reduced lunch and that sort of thing. And because those children far exceeded what the State Department thought, actually SB Butler was awarded a school distinction for last spring scores. And the last thing, and I'm going to go out a little bit on a limb myself. I just reviewed the Connecticut Mirror article about the governor cutting $445,000. I'll tell you what my instinct is tonight, and I'll tell you what my instinct was in December. Last December, if you remember, the governor cut Groton $247,000 of ECS. So this is 247 on top of this. So that's about 700,000 if my math is relatively correct. The 247,000. The first thing we did was the board met, and we all realized that it was important because the town wasn't going to get the $247,000 that they thought they were going to get. And we had a meeting, and the board voted, if you remember, and I'm sure the town manager will reinforce this if needed, but the board returned, or actually allocated $247,000. So right now in my budget, there's $247,000 that's frozen. The board has already committed giving that back to the town. And I just want to highlight what the moderator just said. He said, we need to think about this. That is exactly the way, at least I am taking it as an educational leader in the community. If this town is going to be cut $445,000, my next step is going to be go to the board and say, what more can we give back to the town this year? We have to step up. Of course, everyone's going to look at me now and
Dr. Grenier?
try to figure out where that money's going to come from.
If I can
Yes.
interrupt you just one second. So, upon reading the article, and I have to apologize for making a mistake, it was not ECS funding, but the casino.
Exactly.
The casino grant.
I'm going to interrupt you and
they
keep
cut.
going if you don't mind.
So I apologize.
I
for
knew it
misstating.
was, right. I knew it wasn't education money. I'm saying the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing I said to the town council a few weeks ago. This is a community. We have to be together. We have to help each other. I'm going to go to the board, and I'm going to count nickels, and I'm going to make a recommendation to the board that the board set aside as much as we possibly can to help the town to get through this. We're a community. We need to be together. Moderator said it. I'm saying it. I hope the board, you know, as I said, I'm a bit out on a limb here. I'm not the Board of Education, and I don't have a vote. But my recommendation to the board is going to be, when I get back to my office tomorrow, I'm going to go through the budget, and I'm going to find every single dollar I possibly can to recommend to help out the town. Because, as the other speakers have said, this is a community. The schools are the foundation of the community, but it is going to be my recommendation to help any way that I possibly can. So, thanks so much.
Does
I'd be happy
anybody
to
have any
answer
questions for the superintendent? Representative Marley?
Thank you. Dr. Grenier. I read in the paper you made a statement that the town council's cut to the Board of Education budget would force you to close Pleasant Valley School. Is that correct?
Well, what I said was, without, with the cut of $5.2 million, I couldn't possibly see how the board could cut $5.2 million and not close a school. Not necessarily that school.
I understand. But Pleasant Valley, wasn't it already slated to be closed?
Yeah, 4 years from now. That was really the driving reason, exactly.
Okay. So you already were slated to close Pleasant Valley School to begin with, before the budget cuts?
In 2022, 23.
I understand.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Representative Nugent?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, well, this question, I don't know if it's going to be Dr. Grenier or the town manager. I'd like to clarify what was brought up, and we did discuss it in the Education Committee about the minimum budget requirement. What are the scenarios if the state has not passed a budget, say by June 30th? So we don't know if we have an ECS cut. Do we have at that point, do we have no ECS money, or we assume we have it last year, and when did the penalties start, and how would we address that?
My understanding is that if no budget is passed, the current budget would move forward, which in Groton's case would be $25.2 million of ECS. So the minimum budget requirements only would, the significant reduction would only mirror the reduction that the state ultimately takes. So technically, the ECS would continue at 25 million, and so the minimum budget requirement would be approximately the same as this year's budget.
So when did the penalties start?
The penalties start in FY19. In other words, if if the town, let's just take a number like $1 million. If the town underfunded the Board of Education in FY18 by $1 million, they would take $2 million out of FY19. They take it from the education money, but they take it from next year's education money.
So maybe this is a question for the town manager. If that happened, if we pass an education budget below the minimum budget requirement, and then there's no ECS cut, what, do we have a mechanism to restore money after we pass a budget here?
Correct. We have been trying for well over a month to get some direction from the state and have not gotten very much. But the one takeaway we have is if a community falls below the ECS amount, once that is known, you will have the opportunity to make it up before you're penalized. So I don't think there needs to be any, if the intention of the council and then ultimately the RTM is to do the right thing and make sure we meet the minimum requirement, minimum budget requirement, and because of all the uncertainty, we fall below that number, once it's determined some point in the future, we will have time to make that amount up, to make it whole. If we pick a scenario and the scenario is wrong, I'll pick scenario 2, which is what the budget is built on, with a $5 million cut, and we get all of that $5 million from the state, but between the council and the RTM, you've cut the Board of Ed budget by some amount that at some point in the future we determine is below whatever the ECS amount, we will have time to go back and make it right if that is the decision of the council and the RTM.
Like a special appropriation?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thanks for that clarification.
Representative Nugent, as we stated at the Education Committee meeting, the watchword for this year is going to be flexibility. And we're throwing darts in the dark. Whatever happens, we're not going to allow our town to get penalized, save $1 million to get penalized $2 million the following year. We'll be flexible, and we will adopt whatever happens that comes from the state.
I understand that. I just wanted to be sure of the mechanism. Thank you.
Representative Frickman.
Mr. Moderator. Dr. Groton, I just had a quick question. The number I have for the MBR, that we are already under the town council approved number, they had 74,747,001. The MBR would actually be $929,310. So realistically, we'd have to times 2 for the penalty for FYI 2019.
That's right.
So that'd be the actual number we'd have to add. We get penalized.
If we don't add it, right.
Right. Not including whatever happened with that 21st meeting, which I still don't understand, but I'll find out about that. Thank you.
Representative Swindell.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm a little confused about restoration of funds. Let's just say that the state, by some miracle, was able to restore a sizable portion of the money. We've already closed the school. We've laid off teachers. How would that money ever be spent? I mean, you can't reverse these things.
Well, by closing the school, that is going to save $1.5 million, and that plan essentially has been launched. So I guess if it'd be a nice problem to ponder if we got all $5 million back, but frankly, I'm thinking we have 2 administrators in the central office that have already been notified that they will be no longer administrators in the central office, and the school. If you combine those 2 together, it's approximately $2 million. So if in the big picture, if the state restores at least $3 million or only cuts $2 million, then we would be able to not do, and I'm going to be bringing the details, as I brought to the Education Committee the other night. We would not be laying off another 6 teachers, which is really going to hurt us at the high school and the middle school, and we would fund field trips, and there's a whole series of things that, of course, we're hopeful that we can avoid. Avoiding the whole $5 million, I'm an optimist, but that stretches my credulity.
Are there any other questions for the superintendent? Seeing none, we'll move on. Are there any liaison reports? Oh, actually, first, before we go there, I do have one referral I want to assign. Referral 2017-0095, resolution for FYE 2017 fourth quarter transfers. Whereas the town charter provides for supplemental appropriations to adopted budgets and transfers from contingency function during the year. That's what we're essentially talking about with the Board of Ed. Whereas the town charter also provides for the transfer of funds from one departmental function to another departmental function during the last 3 months of the fiscal year, and whereas transfers are necessary and represent unforeseen or unexpected expenditures at the time the FYE 2017 budget was adopted, now therefore be resolved that transfers totaling $276,195 be transferred from contingency account 1074 to the following general fund department functions, and transfers of $10,000 or more are referred to the RTM for approval. It would be legal services, human resources, insurance and claims, self-funded plans, finance, emergency communications, and public safety. So that's referral 2017-0095. I am referring that to the Finance Committee for their action before our next meeting, our next regular meeting. Are there any liaison reports? No, we'll go to committee reports then. And these are committee reports not associated with the budget. Make that clear. Finance, Chairman Nault.
No meeting, no report.
Community Development Services, Chairman Obrey.
Okay, first time for this one, too. I assume I just read what we have to do.
Just to give your report for the meeting.
We met this evening. Well, we had discussion on this particular item when we had our last committee meeting. And, but at that point, it hadn't come forward, so we didn't have it to vote on. So this evening, we met prior to this meeting and voted in favor of this going forward.
Okay.
Okay? Do you need any information on it, or?
What was the, who was there? Do you have the list of who was there? And
I don't know. We were talking about so many things that at the end, I said, hey, guys, we didn't vote on this, so then we did vote. Let me see, who was there? Raise your hands.
Community and Services members who were at the meeting, please raise your hand.
Excuse me. Let me see. We didn't have a quorum. That's what it was. Sorry about that. I'm telling you, I'm getting all these things mixed up tonight. Then we had another meeting after that, so I'm really blown away with that. But we did not have a quorum.
Okay. Since there was no vote on this, and what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and put it on the floor for the RTM to vote. This was referral 2017-0084, Library LED Light Conversion Project for GMTV Studio. Resolution authorizing a 2017 CIP project to replace GMTV Studio lighting with LED lights at the Groton Public Library. Whereas on June 7th, 2016, the Town Council approved the Groton Public Library 2016 Neighborhood Assistance Act Program application for replacement of GMTV studio lighting with LED lights, and whereas the project was approved for Neighborhood Assistance Act, NAA, funding in the amount of $58,349.22, and whereas the project was not included in the library's FYE 2017 Capital Improvement Program submission, Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Council authorizes a modification of Project 6D for the Groton Public Library in the FYE 2017 through FYE 2022 Capital Improvement Program to add the LED studio light conversion project in FYE 2017 at a cost of $58,349.22, with the source of funds being the Neighborhood Assistance Act program. So,
If I could add, what this is really is just a pass-through. They applied for a grant, it was given, and according to our charter, any monies we have come in has to go through the budget, so that's why we're having this tonight. It's really not any money out of our pockets. This is a grant.
Representative O'Brien, would you like to move the figure of $58,349.22 for referral 2017-0084 Library LED Light Conversion Project for GMTV Studio?
So move. Second.
Wilson. Motion's been moved and seconded for the amount of
$58,349.22.
Don't forget those 22 cents.
Right.
Motion has been moved and seconded for the amount of $58,349.22 for referral 2017-0084. Is there any discussion on this referral? Representative Hubbard.
I just want to thank Representative Oakley for lightening the mood.
No problem. It gets pretty confusing. It really does.
Is there any other discussion on this?
I'd just like to say that I want to commend the director of the library for going after this. If I understand correctly, we don't have anybody, a grant writer anymore, so it's up to the individual departments, and I think that she's doing an excellent job. I want to thank her for that.
Very good. Is there any other discussion on this referral before we vote? Seeing none. Referral 2017-0084, Library LED Light Conversion Project for GMTV Studio in the amount of $58,349.22. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Representative Marley abstains. That motion carries 28-0-1. We are now at 29 members. Thank you, Chairman O'Brien.
You're welcome.
Education, Chairman Nugent. Recreation, Chairman Wilson.
No meeting, no report.
Public Safety, Chairman McDermott.
No meeting, no report.
Public Works, Chairman Dean Chinbrow is not here, but I don't think you guys have a
No meeting, no report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rules and Procedures, Chairman Massett.
No meeting, no report.
Okay. Are there any other budget discussions at this time? Any other business? Very well. Representative Wells?
Going to catch the budget portion. The day after we met to consider this to the North Stonington Road Bridge, on Tuesday, the voters of Stonington approved a budget which included funding for their share of the North Stonington Road Bridge.
Is there any other discussion on either budget discussions or other business? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Wilson. There is a motion to adjourn our regular RTM meeting so that we may continue with our budget meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Representative Evans. Motion has been moved and seconded to adjourn the regular RTM meeting so that we may continue with our budget session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously, 29-0 to 0. I think this is a good time to take a break before we start in on our budget session. Democrats have requested a caucus, so what, about 15 minutes?